I think
No,
it's
in fact, I always wanted to contact Hardik about this because since I am also into education, so I was quite keen on what Nivam is all about, and
I think we have spoken a couple of times.
yes,
We
yes,
tried to
yes,
meet up, but somehow it didn't work out.
yeah, it didn't work out.
Hi guys, sorry we got disconnected.
no issues. We just gave a brief intro about ourselves, and
All right,
yeah, before we start.
great. So, anyone speaking or shall I go ahead?
You can go ahead.
Yeah, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
All right. Hi guys, I'm Anuraj Bandavkar. I have a company called Crisis Care Technical Services. We are into security systems, IT, networking. Basically, we are system integrators. So we undertake government projects, a lot of offices we do, and we are based out of Mumbai. And we serve pan-India basis.
Oh, great. So government projects. So which government?
We do state government, central government projects, tendering we do.
Okay.
Then
So
local municipal corporation level projects also we do.
okay.
So city server projects we are more involved in.
Okay.
Yes.
So we can actually have a chat because I am also dealing in some government projects.
Great. Okay.
So later, yeah. So first, I think it's already done. I think
Yeah,
I think चालू करते हैं ना?
yeah, sure, we can
Yes.
begin. Okay, so actually, this is quite a weird topic. Like the way it came to me also was when I had come to Amravati, like just come. At that time, we had a few of our initial meetings, teacher development programs and so on. And at that time, a pair of mentors used to come for these programs, and they were discussing amongst themselves that during one of the sessions they had a breakthrough, and one of the teachers came up with we have these sharings where the teachers keep saying things that have come to their mind due to any particular activity or discussion. So there was this one point that a particular teacher said that XYZ things came to my mind, and a few more things also, but I cannot say them here. I don't think this is the right time or the place to say it. But sure, I would like to discuss it some other time. So that moment, and then after that, the mentors spoke to her, and then there was a discussion at our table. Once the mentors are done with the sessions, we have our own discussion as the management team, as in what is going on. So we asked them what do they mean by a breakthrough in this case. Like, why do they say that this was a breakthrough? So they very simply stated that normally somebody who is working in an organization, to them it doesn't matter what is being heard or what other people think and so on. They are there to do the job, and once their job is over, it's all right for them. It doesn't matter whether they are affecting the company because of any of these kind of discussions which are crucial for the company's development, or they could go against the company's development. So it clicked me that these tiny things also matter, and these are also big signs as to where an organization is headed. So that is why I started remembering all my experiences in from school to um, the to BNE to Sayadri and the college and the university and the various companies that I've worked in. So I found a kind of a pattern somewhere, and then since then I've been trying to work on that pattern. I've been trying to surf that pattern, so to speak, so that things can last in a synchrony, in a harmonious manner in organizations. So, yeah, so that is what I wanted to discuss. So, our ancient culture through Manusmriti and all, we already had a management system, which is what we refer to as the Varna system. So it wasn't a caste system, it wasn't a Jati system, it was a Varna system where this management used to happen through capabilities of people. So if there is someone who is capable of thinking very deep thoughts, if there is someone who is capable of leadership, if there is someone who is capable of crafting material and organizing things and selling things, so, and then there is someone who just likes his or her own space and just likes to work. They don't, it doesn't really impact them what is going on in the outside world as long as they have something to work on. So, these kind of capabilities, these kind of capacities started influencing the roles that people would pick up in society. And somewhere over the years, it got lost in translation and turned into the Jati system and into the tragedy that it is today. And whoever did not belong in this, whoever was out of the law, so out of the dharma or law, that person became an outcast. So who we refer to as achut today were not achut in the sense you can't touch them, untouchables. They were achut in the sense they were outside the town, outside the area that was under dharma or under law. So they were outcasts. So people who are criminals, people who don't follow the principles of that particular place, they were referred to as outcasts. So this was the ancient system as given in the Manusmriti text. Now, suddenly, after so many years, in 1983, somebody put this across as a paper, and nowadays we have come up with it as a way to, evaluate our people as our employees. So we call it multiple intelligence test, and now it has picked up in schools, colleges, and everywhere. So this was given by Gardner. So Gardner released a paper saying that there are multiple kinds of intelligences. There is musical, rhythmic, there is visual, spatial. So the whole system of the inclinations of a person given in a slightly different analytical manner. So it's basically a remodeled version of the Varna system. Because if you think about it in this way, that someone who has a lot of verbal and linguistic skill is obviously going to be a good orator, and a good orator is naturally going to be a good leader. So that is a Kshatriya. So all these things in various combinations turn out to be the same way of classification as our old system. But why is this important, and how does management today, how does it stand on that foundation or the newly rediscovered foundation? So for that, we need to understand what the word management means. So the etymology or the origin of the word management is a handler of horses. That is why even in Bible and all, when you say the manger, the manger is the place where you have the horses, like the barn. So a manager is someone who handles horses. And here, can you guess what horse we are talking about? You can unmute yourself and
The mule?
yeah, I mean that is like a typical horse, but we are not really talking about a horse. So horse is a symbolism for something. So who are we talking about, or what are we talking about?
Man force, na?
Okay, so one thing is man force. What else? It's actually written there.
Yeah. Assets, basically assets, your
Right.
assets.
The assets of a company, the thing that forms the company, the management of the whole thing is supposed to be the responsibility of the manager. So the whole thing is a horse, because just because something is breaking down infrastructure wise, that falls under outside your jurisdiction. That doesn't make sense. So the whole thing is your horse, and you have to work on it in that way. And if you work on it that way, then it shows an impact on all the people in the company. It shows an impact on the families of the people working in the company, if it is worked on in a wholesome manner. So if you work on the people, the infrastructure, the processes together in one flow, only then can you have some kind of a unity, some kind of a synchrony, and everybody will be in sync, basically. Uh, so now, if that is the case, if you think like that, then the meaning of professional changes. When you hear this in a company that this fellow is not acting professional, or you need to be more professional, you need to handle it more professionally. So what does that actually mean? So pro means before, fess means to acknowledge. We say, right, fess up, like whatever you are holding, fess up. So acknowledge it, admit it. So professional means things that you have, before entering into the pact, you have already acknowledged it. So here, what we normally talk about as the pact, as the basis of your acknowledgement, is the goal of the company. So if you are already aligned with the goal of the company, if you agree with the mission of the company, only then must you join the company. And then whatever comes out of it is the goals that drive the etiquette, and not the other way around. Today, what the way we look at professionalism is, you need to have these etiquettes to work here. It's actually the other way around. If you have the goal very clear in your head, the etiquettes will automatically develop. So this is how management was uh, must be understood. If it is understood like that, then we can start thinking in ways that actually impact companies. So if that was so clear in the old language, why and where did things go wrong? So somewhere in 1830s, the Industrial Revolution began.
Hardik, can I interfere?
Yes.
Hardik, you just said if you have the goal fixed in mind, etiquettes automatically set themselves up. What can you little bit elaborate on that?
Right. So that was the example that I began with, right? So if people in my school have a very clear vision of what the school is meant to be and what the school is meant to do, they will understand what can be said when, and what seems out of place.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
I get that.
So
Basically, I think, sorry to interrupt. Basically, what you meant to say is the perspective you form, right? एक बार वो perspective form कर लिया, वो framework से आप दुनिया देखते हो, and all your behavior, starts coming through that perspective.
yes.
So basically, if you look at management from this perspective, then automatically I think half the battle is won, right? So
Yeah.
everything else comes naturally to you.
Right.
I think that's what you mean to say, right?
Right. So think about it in this way, that like, just to elaborate on what you just stated, if a certain person is facing difficulty in a normal organization, if a person is facing difficulty, they are expected to approach the manager or probably a superior. But that is not necessarily the case. Maybe a peer also has enough knowledge to explain you things. And that openness, if it is not there in an organization, we'll discuss about it in the future examples also. So if that openness is not there in an organization, then that is a very destructive environment and culture for the organization. ठीक है, the employee is obviously afraid, the employee is not in a healthy position, but uh, the bigger damage, if you talk in terms of size, like not in terms of ethics and all that, just in terms of size, then ultimately the organization is going to falter. So one person's happiness, if it is not checked, if it is not understood, then it is going to cause fear in somebody else. That is going to cause fear in somebody else, and then the whole system is going to break down over time.
Hardik, Sachin here.
Yes.
I think we are going towards the employee engagement and employee satisfaction kind of terminologies, by the way.
Yes. So employee engagement is actually a not very healthy way of looking at it, because employee engagement literally would mean that since you don't want the employee to get frustrated by the mundane work that the company is doing, you're finding a slightly more entertaining and innovative work for engaging the employee, to engage the employee.
My quick question. I think you can just may say me that it may be answered afterwards. But if you follow the Steve Jobs philosophy, what he says is idea is mine. You need to follow that idea. Though we call iPhone as a very creative company or something, but basically it says that I know the best ideas, you need to follow. And that is one of the incidences in his movie. It was shown, someone gives some different idea, different perspective. He says just shut off, and he just throws him away out of this company. So it is little paradox in my mind. Like everyone thinks kind of very out of box way. The main idea may not be followed. What's your thought on that?
So now think about it like this: what is Apple's vision? Or whatever you understand from the vision of Apple. What do you think is the vision of Apple?
The best products for with the human technology.
Okay, that is what they are doing. But if you hear Simon Sinek talking about the philosophy of Apple, and even if you go on the site and check the vision and mission, so the vision and mission more or less talks about challenging the status quo, challenging the complacency that has been set into the world in terms of whatever. It doesn't describe what they are talking about. It just says challenging that status quo. So if your vision is that you want to challenge what is the norm, challenge what has been set in as a stagnant and lethargic system, if you want to challenge the system, because if you remember, even if you see the movie, what is it called, Pirates of Silicon Valley, they begin with that girl coming and throwing the hammer at the IBM advertisement. So the whole intention of making that advertisement, the reason why Steve Jobs made that advertisement was because he believed in, or he said he believed in challenging the status quo. So if your vision is to challenge the status quo, would something small as everyone follow my vision, otherwise you are going to get kicked out, is that small tiny ego issue going to drive you forward if your focus is on the vision? So where,
Right. I'm following that. Yeah.
So, are you talking about the employee or the company as a whole, or Steve Jobs? The
I'm
ego
talking
issue.
about the company as a whole, the vision of the company as a whole, and how it affects everyone in the company, from the management to the employees to the sweeper, everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it like this:
Uh-huh.
if a company thinks that, suppose like Bharat Serum, if somebody in Bharat Serum, since the time they enter the gate till the time they fill their registration, do their induction, and then they begin their work, if from that moment till the end, till the time you get your paycheck, you are always told that whatever work you are doing for the country, whatever work you are doing for the country. If this is hammered at each and every time, the sweeper with every stroke of his broom will still think that this broom is cleaning the nation.
Mm.
So, if the vision is that clear and if the vision is that deeply set in, um, everything else models around it. In
Yeah.
most of the companies and most of the organizations, the vision is not even visible, which is kind of ironic.
Hmm.
So vision not being visible is like the funniest thing that you can think of in an organization. So the vision and mission should be put up at various places. It should be discussed. It should be critically discussed, not like some, like a religious chant. Okay, this is our vision. Keep chanting it. Nahi. It should be discussed, and there should be talks about it on why this is our vision, and why is it why does it still create an impact today. So that is why goals come in handy. Not just handy, like a company should be goal driven, an organization should be goal driven, and that is how the management should work. The manager, like the manager of the horse, should worry only about the vision of the company.
Mm.
So in this case, if the vision of the company or vision of the horse is to win the race, so the manager only has to worry about the health of the horse, the how happy the horse is, how much the horse actually feels like running, whether the horse is getting any infections or not.
Mm.
So all these things become more important instead of do as I say. So this I takes a back seat here, even for
Mm.
the manager.
So, and to actually touch on Sachin's question, I mean, Apple succeeded in spite of
Steve
Steve Jobs
Jobs.
being a jerk, not because of Steve Jobs being a jerk. So वो जो मूवी में दिखाया है वो actually if he wasn't such a jerk, he might have even had much better people, right, serving for him.
I'm unmuting just to laugh on that. Okay.
So yeah, we will talk about it. Malab, we will hit on points around this issue also. So then the industrial age came in.
Oh, good.
Yes, Sachin.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. We are coming back to this issue. That would be really great. Thank you.
So the industrial age came in, and as we all know, it was completely demand and supply driven. There was nothing else behind it. It was just demand and supply, because even when it began with those kind of products which only worked on demand and supply. So things like clothes and machinery and vehicles. So how much ever sewing machines, things like that. So how much ever people bought, how much ever people consumed was what was driving the industries at that time. So obviously the people who came in also were of the same mentality. So if there is more demand, and if I hire more people to fulfill that demand, or if I hire less people and make them work like slaves and try to fulfill that demand, what is going to put more money in the company's pocket and later on in my pocket? So that is why to kind of optimize it, to make a system out of it, we had to turn craftsmen into workers, like people who would just do sewing on sewing machines for themselves or for their neighbors and so on. Now had to do it 24/7 just for the sake of doing it. Like they were, it was basically like a conveyor belt. So I do a little bit of sewing here, somebody else will put up the button, somebody else will maybe fold the helm, whatever. So that entire process becomes like a piece by piece by piece. So doing this for like years together, obviously somebody or the other will become dead inside. Like there is no invention here, there is no brain activity involved here. So these later on to like it became even more deep meaning, where workers, this is still plural. So workers means people uh, who were craftsmen who turned into people who just work, but still plural, became staff. So staff is just one unit. So one unit of the company who produces these clothes is our working staff. So we went from people who were artistic to people who just worked to nothing and object. And in this mundane work, you had skill schools where people were. Now the vision part comes in. Now in skill schools, they were taught that you need to be successful, and the definition of success is more money in your pocket, and so on. So this is where all the brainwashing started happening, and they were trained for these jobs. The more shirts you make, the higher post you will get, and that much sooner. So this happened, and along with that, optimization on an industrial scale, optimization on education started becoming a thing. Previously, we had nurseries, we had school setups, but we didn't have schools. This is the first time during the industrial age that we had places where children were educated, or rather they were made skillful, so to speak. And this is the time when even the education system started becoming a system. Previously there was no system. If you read Plato and these people's Republic, Plato, Socrates, and somebody, so if you read the Republic,
Aristotle.
sorry,
Aristotle.
Aristotle. So they, I don't remember the name, sorry. So they sat down, they had a discussion, and that was their education. It was like a discovery through inquiry kind of a thing, and it goes in so much of depth. Today, even philosophers can't go in that much depth. So that was like an average day class, you can say. So that became today's optimized education, where everything became marks, became tick marks. Even the marks, like the the numbers wala marks, came from tick marks. So, satisfactory, not satisfactory, that is it. So they were marked accordingly, and then gradually we wanted to make it seem more logical, make it seem more complicated. That is why we came down to numbers. So this kind of optimization happened, and then we had a slightly more modern and scientific approach called Six Sigma, which was which came about through Mitsubishi and was made famous through Mitsubishi, um, where you had an optimization of each and every process in the company. And even now, somehow it is still a thing. And one example of this is the 5S. So 5S, I don't remember the full form. So it's a Japanese technique where it talks about only arrangement. So in your office, where should your table be? Where should the chairs be? How far they should be from the table? Where should your cabinet be? So your physical setup of your office should be like this in the company. So that is 5S. So matlab, people have thought to that much of detail ke if this is how a company looks, and if this is how things are done in a company, then your people will work like mad. So this is what has been going on since the industrial age. So at this time, precision was rewarded and creativity was finished. Now, So how are things changing today, and how are things remaining the same today? So this is the part where I wanted to discuss a little bit about my experiences in the corporate world. So I had a chance to work in an MNC and a few other companies, and through one of the companies I had a chance to work in a few other companies because they had a lot of site work. So I spent months in quite good companies. And since I'm going to be posting this online, I don't want to name them right now, but I can discuss that later after the recording is finished. So, so one system that usually takes place in big companies, like really big companies. So the MNC that I was talking about is the distant management, where the management is not in sight. So you don't see who is running the company, you don't see who is running the show. You kind of don't understand what is happening because the vision is probably disclosed to you once in the beginning during your induction, and then it doesn't appear anywhere. So this is the company where everything is so structured and well managed that today the company is not running because of leadership, it is running because of a system, which is not really bad, not a problem. But the only thing is that somebody who has a vision for a leadership uh, kind of feels that things are tipsy because they don't understand what is the leadership based on, how does the leadership happen in this setup, and who is running the company, who do I learn from. So that mentoring system doesn't happen in this company. So there is some kind of a complacency, there is some kind of a stagnancy. Even though the company has worked for like say 50 years or something like that, you know that this company could get crippled by any new revolution, any kind of revolution. So because you don't see any progress happening. So the typical bank structure today is a good example. Like banks still use mainframes, banks still use the old technology and the the typical window and everything. So this thing about banks, the way banks work, this died down years ago, but still we are continuing with this, which is kind of dangerous for us. So companies that work like this, even in banks, you don't see who is really running the show, right? You have a bank manager who works on one branch, but you don't have anyone who is like who owns the bank and who like visits branch to branch to branch and inspires people what great work you are doing, because that is not what banks are for. Banks are literally places where money is counted. So these kind of companies, they have a very high compartmentalization. People just know what to do because they have been trained to do on trained in those things, trained to do those things. And the training also happens by people whose role is to train. So that foresight, that vision is not given there also. So here the leader becomes a legend, like a legend in the sense, a far and fictional character that you never come in touch with. Probably like the whole concept of God, that we can never reach there. And because of that system, like a religious kind of a system, things just work there. So this is what happens in most schools and very old companies. But we are seeing the kind of change that is happening and what it is doing to old schools. We can see what is happening to very old schools in Amravati, in Pune, and all cities. People who used to have 100 children in their classes, the school is still there, the building is still there, and they are still getting admissions, and everything is happening. But the output, the minds that they are turning out are basically absent of intelligence. Now they are just people who have been trained that the world is going to bludgeon you, it is going to hurt you, and you have to develop a steely skin to bear it. So these are the jaded people these organizations turn out. So this is what happens in
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I studied in Siagat College, Pune, and it's the same thing which you have mentioned. I mean, leader is equal to legends. Every classroom or every gallery had our president's photo and his family's photo or the complete dynasty, but they never visited or nothing. And सबको ऐसे पॉन्च जैसे बिठा के रखा था. And the process is the other end. Everything you are saying, I mean, applies to that college. No wonder. I mean, it's not doing well right now.
Yeah, because somewhere everyone knows that this is a system that is just lasting, and we never know till when it is going to last.
Yeah.
So now coming to the other one, that is the air quotes organization. So the air quotes organization is where people say that the management has said that we need to do this. So something is off. Something is wrong. You don't know why, but that said is very fishy, and something needs to be done is also very fishy, because probably what needs to be done is not what has been said. You understand the paradox? So everything is in air quotes. Everything is suspicious. So in these kind of organizations, um, everyone is a skeptic. So the Madagascar penguins. So they keep running around and figuring out what is wrong, what is wrong, what is wrong. So this is that kind of an organization. So here you have invisible strings. You don't know who is pulling what, and everything seems to work on the again with air quotes. Everything seems to work in the organization. You can't figure out how, and you can't figure out why, and things are so compartmentalized that when you ask people something, if it is not something that you need to know, they will just look away and walk. So these kind of organizations are also there.
So can you give an example of such an organization?
I can give you a list, but not right now, since I want to post this.
Just edit it out of your recording.
Okay, so I can give you a hint that one of them is in Bangalore. So if you search for wherever I've worked in Bangalore, you will come to me. So so yeah, so
Okay.
these are places that are highly compartmentalized, where people are not supposed to know things other than what is given to you. And the moment you start getting to know these things, stories start building up about the around the employees, and somewhere someone who has already studied politics, studied people, will know, okay, now it is time for this person. This is the organization where everybody knows what air quotes mean, and this is the organization where you know who is the manager, you know who is the leader, because they have good cabins, and the cabins are strategically placed. They may not necessarily be cabins that are luxurious; they are just cabins that are placed in such a way where they can see and hear everything, but everybody else cannot. So
और CCTVs लगा के उनके टीवी पे भी रखते हैं just because they want to show that we are watching you,
yes,
those kind. Yeah.
so this is
Okay.
what happens in these companies, and one very typical scenario for these leaders, you will always have a few people in certain positions or posts in the company who you just cannot figure out how did that person reach there. You just cannot figure out, because that person has no personal skills, the person doesn't have any interpersonal skills, the person doesn't have any technical intelligence to solve problems that people come to him with, him, her, whatever, things just seem to work. So there are a few people who are in designated positions for very suspicious reasons. And in this organization, first of all, there is a lot of threatening involved. So, for example, beginning with when you apply for an interview. So, the moment you go for the interview, even before you go for the interview, you get a call saying, we really don't have a post. So, we are trying to see where we can fit you in, but you have to tell us now. If you are really interested, only then join. Otherwise, we really don't have that much of a vacancy. So this is how the conversation begins for before the interview. And then when you have the interview, again they'll tell you, okay, I know the package that we are talking about is much lower than what you are already receiving in the previous company. But this is what we offer for this position, and that is it. Take it or leave it. So this threatening begins from this stage. Now another thing is you get pressurized from very mysterious places. People you are not directly concerned with. If you are a part of a department, things are supposed to come down to you from a chain of command, right? A manager is supposed to tell you to do certain things, but that doesn't happen. Your manager doesn't tell you. Another employee, another peer from a different department will come and give you some work. And then to understand that work, you have to take that work to your manager and tell him, see, I have received this work. So the management is equally surprised. Okay, this is supposed to be routed through me. How did this fellow get the work directly? And I have no knowledge of it. Now how am I going to manage the time? Because the manager probably already has plans that, in the day, these 6 things are supposed to be done. This fellow will handle this fellow will handle that, and everything will be done very well. But that doesn't work out because of this new guest that has arrived. Then another thing is about the long waits. So you have a long waiting time for everything. So if you want to meet the HR has called you. The HR himself has called you. And then you go up and you have to stand in front of the HR's office for 15 minutes. Normally, in a functioning company, in a very precise company, a person has been summoned, the person has to be entertained that quickly. Because you imagine the destruction you are causing to your company for your ego or because of your ego by just calling someone for the sake of showing power. I can call you and I can make you wait for 15 minutes and see what damage I am doing to myself by wasting your time and my time, both. So long waits is another sign here. Then groupism. So every time there is a tea break or a coffee break, you will notice that people are forming groups in very weird ways. In a good healthy company, like even in this company, even in a company with distant management, you can have lunch breaks, you can have coffee breaks where people from different departments are coming together and they are conversing. But here in this organization, the conversations happen only within groups of people who are of the same religion, of the same region, or of the same community, or of the same department, and in some cases of the same college, of the same like group, so to speak. So communications are always done in tiny groups so that the message doesn't get out. So if
I think the reason might be because of all the things you have discussed, people are not feeling secured in their positions.
Yes.
And that's why they might be hanging out with the people they feel secure about. And one of the things you mentioned that उठ के किसी को भी ये पोजीशन पे डाल दिया ना, उसको कुछ स्किल है ना कुछ है, that also reeks of insecurity of his boss. या कि मेरा पोजीशन में सिक्योर कर लूंगा ऐसे लोगों को रख के कि मैं इनके रिलेटिवली ज्यादा सही लगूंगा, राइट? सो
Yes.
kind of like that. I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, that is true. That is, I was hoping somebody would catch on that. So thank you for doing that. So yes, so basically in this organization there is a big insecurity that is happening, and the whole structure is based on fear. So all the stability of the organization, everything is only working because of fear. So why do people stick around? So even in the company that I spoke about, I was there for almost 2 years. But there was a reason because of which I stuck around for a reason. Because of which I stuck around in such a company. Um, so the people who normally stick around are people who are too humble, or people who uh, have managers who are very down to earth and familiar, uh, who make them feel safe. Then people who listen to you. Then there are people who understand what is actually going on and try to balance it, try to form some kind of a protective aura, some kind of a protective zone, at least in their department. So at least in their jurisdiction, whatever lies is protected, is kept safe. Then you have people who actually lead. So people who actually lead, what does it mean? So for example, here one thing that Simon Sinek says is, I learned that I do not have to know all the answers, and when I don't have to pretend that I do. So that single lesson transformed my life. It made me willing to ask for help, and it made me willing to be open to it when I needed it. So it takes very deep courage to be able to admit I don't know this, and to bend down and ask for help. And by bend down, I mean if you are in a so-called titled position of authority, you actually make an exception and you decide, okay, no, just because I am in a position of authority doesn't mean I cannot learn from anybody else. So because of this, you show that you are vulnerable. You are also a human being, and if a human being leads you, it creates a very different impact compared to a machine leading you or a system leading you. So these are the people who are actually leaders. They are not the so-called legends that we spoke about earlier. Um, so somebody very rightly said, not in 100% of the cases, sometimes it is the other way around. People leave managers, not companies. So that is not always necessarily true. It depends on how the chemistry between both is working. But generally, yes, it makes sense, because in some cases where it is the other way around, also there people leave when the company starts interfering in the managerial role. So if your manager is very good, but if the company is starting to interfere there, so the manager, your department's manager, becomes just a puppet. So in that case, a lot of people, a lot of employees, even under a good manager, tend to leave. So the qualities that are required, that are beyond numbers, is everything that is related to empathy. Understanding people, putting yourself in somebody else's shoes, and then working from there. And this empathy can only happen when you have a longer, larger goal, like a proper target in mind for the company, for the organization. Because then it becomes more important for you that you as an organization have to achieve that goal, not you alone. So you move together. And so this is the new generation management, so to speak, which is going on right now, which is trending right now. And this is the management that I think is going to pick up very soon, has already started picking up very soon. If you must have heard, a lot of people, like Japanese companies, have started practicing Tai Chi, Indian companies have started practicing yoga, and so on. So, meditation, mindfulness, all these things are happening, grounding exercises. So, these are all tiny attempts at going towards mindfulness. These are all tiny attempts at
Yeah.
moving towards consciousness. So, a perfect management system would be not a system that cannot be improved, but a system that is consciously ever improving. So, here the key term is conscious. So, it has to be a conscious management where everyone is an adult. So, in this company, in the air quotes organization, if you have one adult in the room, just one person who sees through the system and calls it, everybody is afraid of that person, and two things happens. One is either the person leaves the company by himself with pride, or the other, the company tries to leave that person and tries to demean that person. So, very simple example. As soon as my manager left in this particular company, one fellow, the HR, came down and he started saying that we had to let that person go because he stole this and did that and damaged this and caused the loss of this project and so on and so forth. So after the person is gone, now you come and you try to peddle something that everybody else knows. Obviously, it is false. So this is what it means to be an adult when you see through all these things and you know your tendencies. Yes, it is very obvious that if you are childish and if you have lost something, then you will try to grab onto it, or you will try to release your bitterness somewhere. That is obvious, but then becoming a victim of your tendencies is going against consciousness. So here the management takes a conscious decision that yes, I feel bad that people are moving out, I feel bad that people are leaving the company, but why not do it healthily? Wherever they go, they'll be taking a part of your culture, your organization with you, with them. So you are basically working as an adult. You are working as a person who is, yes, working for a company with a very distinct vision, but the company is still on Earth. It is still a part of the world, which is a bigger world, and people move around. So this is the typical mentality of a conscious manager. Now, another thing that you notice in this organization is there is a horizontal structure. So if someone comes in and asks, like just out of curiosity, and suppose these guys are hanging out at a bar or something like that, and somebody just walks up and says, "So, who is your manager? Who is the leader in the company?" Most of the times they'll laugh because yes, they have a manager, they have a leader, but then that post is just a post. Outside of the company, everybody is the same. And even inside the company, the manager only serves as a manager because he's the point of communication. If you have to send a mail to 10 different people and then you get 10 different responses, do you think that is more efficient? Or if you send out one mail and the manager calls a meeting, takes everyone's opinion, and sends one mail back with the group decision, which is more efficient?
Second one.
Yeah, so the group decision one. So that is how the this particular management works. So it's a horizontal structure. Everything is done together. And here all the roles are only functional. As I said, the manager is only a manager for the post. As far as the employees are as far as the subordinates are concerned, they are not really subordinates. They are kind of peers. They are kind of colleagues who work with this person to make everybody's job easier. And communications are very clear in this organization. There is no hidden meaning. There is no dear, please, I request you to, that kind of honey language involved here. Something has to be done, it is just stated, because that is work. That is how you do work. and maybe yes, you have occasional pop-ups of a joke or something like that, but it's not spamming your mail or something. So that is just a disruption. So that comes under what do we call it? RKA, random acts of kindness. So you are interacting with a few people uh, in such a way that they are kind of happy with what they are doing, and there is a bonding involved with just one tiny smiley here, or a tiny joke here, or a good inspirational quote there, which does not mess up the message. The communication, the message has to be the priority, and then after that, all these things come up. Then how do we bring about this culture? So as I said, everyone has a milestone, everyone has signs on how an organization is being built up. So if you want to work towards making an organization like this, you also have to work in an alternative manner, with alternative approaches. So for example, if you check out the Simon Sinek huddle video on YouTube, how they are connecting remotely, and even remotely they do group meditation and grounding exercises, and uh, vision alignment discussions, and so on. We can obviously do it on a personal level, we can obviously do it on place in groups of people where you are not separated by that much of a distance. So huddles are necessary. End of the day meetings are necessary. Even if somebody is staying back to work longer, have the meeting, then that person can go back to work. Maybe one person can stay back just for kindness, and the rest of the people can disperse. So this kind of a friendly and a familiar atmosphere needs to be built up. So here you can also have readings, like just select a book, say Mongoose Oldest Ferrari, or any book that you find interesting, and why not read like 2 pages of it every day or something like that in a group meeting with discussion. So that can be like 15-20 minutes max. So if you have like an 8-hour day, and out of the 8-hour day, if you reserve 40 minutes for a meeting, you're not really losing out too much. In fact, you are gaining something the next day, and gaining something even more in the month, and in a year, you can actually work magic. So,
Yeah.
readings, then another is family groups, where maybe you can have a support system for your department, your organization, where you discuss any personal issues that you are facing, or you can have one. So the way we began it is we had a few trigger questions. So if you say, okay, what are 3 things that you really regret in life? So a question like that tends to get people thinking. Even people who think very superficially will start thinking, okay, what am I really regretting? What is weighing on me? And if this is discussed in a meeting, the group instantly becomes a family, because this is something that you don't probably discuss even with your actual family. So,
Yeah.
working on family groups, and then vision alignment discussions are really, really necessary. I don't know why I have put vision alignments discussions. Okay, whatever. So, vision alignment discussions and inquiry into that vision. So, if you have a particular vision, why have you made that vision, and how is it relevant today? Very, very, very important questions to be discussed at least once a month. So yeah, this is what I had.
Thanks.
So if
Actually, I relate a lot. Yeah, I relate a lot to the last management style, because though not perfect, I tried doing this in my company, and actually, uh, you find people more motivated, more giving their all to the work.
yeah,
Yeah, so it was quite good. And while recruiting also, I did campus recruitments. कैंपस रिक्रूटमेंट्स में ये जो मैं विजन क्या है ओपिलेंट का, फॉर एग्जांपल एनरिचिंग इंडिया थ्रू इनोवेशन, राइट? and why we are doing this, और क्या expect कर सकते हो तुम. So once I laid down that in the college campus presentation, though I was a startup, एक दो साल का startup था, though I had a very good chunk of people actually wanting to join me just by articulating that before recruitment. So basically, आजकल people want self-actualization, right? The techniques which you mentioned, the management styles of the last century, most of them were out of necessity of those times, right? So you had nothing, or अभी लेकिन such management styles are going to succeed because the creative people, right, like us, the people who have their basic needs sorted, they would love to work in such a company. And क्योंकि ये company में आजकल जो काम होता है, the nature of work these companies do need such kind of people, to work for them. So yeah, I mean, you actually summarized and articulated pretty well as a model, but so I enjoyed it. We have someone else who has joined us, Innovative Surface Coating. So hi there. May we know who you are?
Hey, hi Tanul, hi Hardik, this side Nikhilesh
Oh, hi Nikhilesh.
from Innovative Surface Coating Technology.
Yeah. Nagpur. Oh, sorry, Nashik. Nashik or Nagpur?
Nagpur, exactly, got it right, Nagpur. Right.
So we had a couple of people from Nagpur today. So one had to
Yes.
leave at 7 o'clock.
Right.
Prashant.
Right. So actually, Hardik has given you a lot of good insight altogether, and I think he's a big fan of Simon Sinek, if I'm not wrong. He must have read all his 6-7 books from 2010 till date.
No, I just
You had a mini
saw
discussion on the group, right? You couple of
Right.
weeks back. I think.
Right.
So I just
Actually,
saw
that
few
is also
videos because I felt
Right.
what he says is something relatable to most people today and is a good place to start change. Like if you really want to change your organization, it's a good stepping stone.
right.
But as I
So
mentioned
all
in the
these techniques,
last, yeah,
I have heard you say when we met in Amravati about these techniques. You are being using this in your own school. So I'm just curious to how much the attrition is, because I think it must be very low compared to other organizations.
no. So what happens here is you have to take into consideration those dynamics that we are in Amravati. So in Amravati, most of the people, first of all, we are in education, so most of the people who join us are women as teachers.
Yeah.
And among them, quite a few of them are unmarried, so quite a few get married and then they move out. Quite a few of them have gotten into teaching as kind of a financial support to their partner. So like the husband is the actual breadwinner, and then the woman, the wife is the like a teacher and who is contributing to that amount, so to speak. That is what they join in as. But then with subsequent trainings, people usually stick around with us for a minimum of 2 years, which is in these times and in this field, 2 years is a lot. So they stick around for at least 2 years, and when they go out, wherever they go out, they take a little bit of Nivam with them. So they start making that change there. They start building that culture there. So we have a few people in Bombay. We have a few people who have moved to Nagpur, and they start bringing about transformations in their organizations. So we do have attrition, but then we are spreading an idea. So whatever goal we have, they have not left that goal.
Perfect. So I'm yet to visit your school. Yeah, last time I think I came during the vacations, I guess.
Yeah.
Or chutti tha. छुट्टी था. So, what next?
बस तो अभी we can form like a kind of a plan for people who are really interested in exploring this, and then we can see how things work out.